If you just hear the word percentile, what do you see in it? Percent, yeah, percent, and so it has to do with percent. And when you hear ranking, what do you hear there? What are you thinking of? You are literally ranking. Yes, exactly. So percentages, we're going to use percentages to rank something. Okay? And if you just follow along, I will guide you through it. If you pay attention, percentile is actually one of the easiest calculations you can possibly do in this unit. You just have to know what am I asking for, okay guys? That's all you need to know. What am I actually asking you to do? So the term percentile, right? Percentile has the same base as percent or percentage. Okay, it relates to out of 100. Percentiles are used to organize sets of data. Okay. Percentile rank indicates the percentage of values of a given data that are lower than a given number. If a number is said to be the 60th percentile, I'm going to use a different color for that. Okay. Let's highlight that with a different color. If a number is said to be the 60th percentile, what does that mean? It means that 60% of the numbers are set are below the given number. And this is where some students get it confused. They confuse this part here. If a number, right? What number are we talking about? This could be test score. Write this down actually, because a lot of times that throws students off. This could be a test score. Let's put bullets, right? Test score. It could be the weight. It could be your height. It could be your income. It doesn't matter. Like, that is what this number stands for, right? Like you will, for example, be given a certain height, and then you're trying to figure out, well, how many people are shorter than this particular height? Or income. You'd be like, hey, Johnny makes $70,000 a year. How many people make less than that? That's what percentile rank is trying to, and in doing so, it kind of puts you in a certain place, like it ranks you. Can I just draw your attention to alternate notations? I think there's a third one that I came across. Like, you can alternate notations. I'm just gonna draw your attention to that. You don't need to worry about writing it, but you need to be able to read it. So P60 is the same thing as the 60th percentile. Let's do the third one that I have seen, PR60. They're all saying the same thing. Percentile rank indicates where a value stands with respect to the other values. Okay, I'm going to use orange again. One more time. Percentile rank, where a value stands with respect to the other values. And this is your formula here. I think this one is on your formula sheet, but I would say it doesn't take up a whole lot of space. B, number of values below. And N is total number of values. Okay, that's what you need to know. So B, the number that would go in on the top represents the number of values that are below. and n is the total number of values. I'm going to highlight this part. This is very important. Since percentile rank is, since PR is a rank, we use whole numbers. And I'm going to use a different color for this one. We do not use percentage. And you might think, but Mr. Dirksen, didn't you just say it percentile rank? Didn't you just say that? Okay. So percentile, we just say like 60th or 61st or 70th or something like that, which means that there's 60, in this case, 60th percentile would say that 60% of the values are below it. But we do not use percentage. I'll put arrows everywhere. Look over here. Don't miss that part. If you want full marks, if you don't care about full marks, then you'll lose half a mark if you put percentage next to it. Okay, here it is one more time. Summarized. Let me just focus a little bit. You're with me? Percentile rank. So let's say we're comparing heights. Example, heights. Just so you know that right now we're talking about heights. And let's say this is you. This is the number. So let's say your height is like 5'4". Doesn't matter. And then there could be potentially a bunch of people that are shorter than you, right? So in this case, if 80% of people are shorter than you, right? That means that the percentile, you're in the 80th percentile, which means that your percentile rank is 80%. And you're like, this is confusing, right? But just make sure you focus on this when you state your answer. This is how you state your answer. So being in the 80th percentile, write this down right here. 80th percentile tells us that 80% of people are shorter than the one being considered. And here's a big one. Note, percentile does not tell you the actual score, but only how the score compares to the rest. I could replace actual score with height. It doesn't tell you the actual height, it just tells you how that height compares to the rest. Okay? So when you see the percentile, like, oh, 80th percentile, it doesn't tell you what the actual height is of that person. It's just like, hey, we do know that that person is pretty tall compared to the rest of the people, right? Compared to the rest, if you're in the 80th, the higher up your ranking, can you follow this thought? The higher up your ranking, the more people are below you, correct? So the higher this number, the more people did worse than you on a test, or are shorter than you, or make less than you, right? The higher up the ranking, the more people make less than you or are below you. Okay, so that's something you need to remember. There was one year a question about a goalie in hockey. A goalie had this many saves, and it put that goalie in the 90th percentile. What do you think? Is the goalie pretty good? And the answer is we don't know. We just know that 90% of goalies did worse than this particular goalie. But it could be that they all sucked, right? Like really, like they all didn't do so well. But if within the pool, this goalie was in the 90th, right? Which, if you think about it, in hockey, that would mean that that goalie is in general going to be valued the most, right? They're going to probably get the best contract. But just letting you know. I don't have room in this paper for you to do this, but I just thought I would give you a quick, just look up and have look at this example. So let's say you are in science class, and I'm just going to pick 5 students, right? So one student scored 60%, the other one scored 62%, and 70%, and you have a 90%, and a 99%, let's say. Okay. Let's say this student is Biff. I'm just making stuff up, right? Biff is right here. Biff scored 90% in this class. Biff also took math with Mr. Dirksen, right? So math class. In the math class, these were the scores. Mr. Dirksen was just starting to teach, and so nobody had a clue what was happening, right? These are the test scores. Got it? Uh-oh. And this is Biff here in the math class. Okay. Remember the formula for percentile? What is the formula to calculate someone's percentile? It's this one. B stands for how many people scored less than you. N stands for the total scores, right? Times 100. What's Biff's percentile in science class? Let's go PR. How many students are we considering? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, correct? How many scored less than Biff? 1, 2, 3, correct? What's 3 divided by 5 times 100? 60? Yeah. So you would go 60th. So right now in science class, Biff says, hey, I'm in the 60th percentile, which means that 60% of the students scored less. And you're like, well, it's 3 students, Mr. Dirksen. Why do you do percentages? It's the same thing. 60% and 3 students in this case is the same thing. Let's calculate Biff's percentile in this class. Did Biff do pretty good here on his test? Pretty good. Did Biff do pretty good in math? But let's calculate the percentile, PR. And remember, I did this for a reason, right? How many scores? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How many students scored less than Biff? 3. What do you think the percentile is going to be? Same. Wait a minute, right? So still, compared to the rest of the class, Biff did pretty good, comparatively, but his actual score wasn't that good. Over here, Biff had the same percentile, right? Actually did pretty good. So sometimes the question is going to give you their actual scores, but sometimes it will not. Sometimes they'll just give you 60-60. And so you'll be like, well, I don't really know how well Biff did, but Biff did better than 60% of his classmates in both classes in this instance, right? So I hope, again, this is new to you. So let your brain kind of just slowly absorb as I'm talking about these things, okay? Let's go to page 54. Trust me, just follow me. After a while, you're gonna have a better grasp. And I know you're trying to like get this to click, right? The following shows the average amounts of sleep students between the ages 15 and 18 are getting per night. I totally made this up, but I have a pretty good feeling that I'm bang on this one. So watch, percentile is along the bottom here, and hours of sleep is along the top here. And you're like, why is it so random, right? I did it on purpose. Like technically, right, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way to 10, right? 20, 30, 40, right? 40, 50. So I kind of just put some random percentiles down the bottom that are associated with a certain number of hours at the top. So let's use this to answer the questions. What percentage of students get less than 3 hours of sleep? 40, yes. So I'm going to highlight this 3 hours right here. And I'm going to go 3 hours and match it with 40th. Okay. Since, let's write it down like I want you to understand. Since 3 hours corresponds to 40, I should say, to the 40th percentile. Okay. We know that 40% of students get less than 3 hours of sleep. So remember, this is all about hours of sleep, right? But the percentiles will tell us. So watch this, guys, right? So if you're in the 40th percentile, that means that 40% of students get less than this, which is kind of scary. I hope I'm wrong. Right? But 40% of students get less than 3 hours of sleep. And the emphasis on the 40th, and right, that tells us that 40% get less than that. Next, what percentage of students get between 5 and 6 hours of sleep? Right? 5, I'm going to highlight that orange, whatever color you have. Between 5 and 6, that means that we're looking at just students that are in this chunk, correct? That's all we want. In between. How in the world would I do that? Guys, look up here. From 0 all the way to this one is what percentage is here? If you're in the 90th, that means that 90% of students get less than 6 hours, right? And so if you're 75, that means that 75% are over here. So what would you have to do with these two to get what's in between? Subtract, yeah. I'm going to go 90 minus 75. That's actually 15%. So sometimes when you want the in-between, just subtract what you have at the bottom. That's all you need to do. Okay? So I will put this down, watch. I'll just 75th, and this goes with the 90th. So 90 minus 75, that'd be 15% of students get between 5 to 6 hours. To be honest, if you just give me the 15%, I'll be happy already. Okay. What percentage of students get less than 4 hours of sleep? I need a different color now. Less than 4 hours. Not between, correct? Not between. It just says less than 4 hours. Where is my 4-hour mark? It's right here, correct? What does it coincide with? 50th. Okay. 4 hours corresponds. You don't have to do it this fancy down the road. I just want you to understand. 4 hours corresponds with 50th percentile. So I'm making the connection. Therefore, 50% of students get less than 4 hours of sleep. Scary. I hope I'm dead wrong here. And what does it say in that box there? Yeah, the 50th percentile is actually known as our median in statistics. So I'm gonna zoom down here so you get that part. This is very important. In fact, I would say PR50 or 50th percentile, anything like that, it's our median. I would write that down on my study sheet. Just right at the beginning, just in case they ever ask you. 50th percentile is the median. How many hours of sleep does a student in the 80th percentile get? Look into, can you determine this based on our graph? Is it possible? Let's go up and look. I'm going to go 80th percentile. Do I actually explicitly give you the 80th percentile? It's somewhere here, correct? So based on what I gave you, you cannot determine that. You don't have enough information. And you're like, why in the world would you do that, Mr. Dirksen? Because sometimes the province has done that. I don't know why, but they have done that in this particular section. This cannot be determined based on the info provided. That's it. So we haven't used that formula a whole lot yet. I want to use the formula now after I've done this. Basically what I was doing now, I hope it helped. I was just trying to get you to see what's going on here. Like how does percentile work? Why do you use percentile, Mr. Dirksen? All of a sudden you talk about percentage. So percentile is what you calculate. Percentage is describing the meaning. Listening. Percentage is when I'm asked to describe what does that mean. What does this 50th mean? Oh, it means 50% or less, right? Or when it's 40th percentile, like up here, 40th percentile, what does that mean? Oh, it means that 40% of students, in this case students, it could be players, like if it's a basketball team, there's a basketball team question with heights, right? So it'd be players in that case. Or babies, there's one with weights of babies. I don't know if you know that, but when babies are born, they weigh your baby like every second. No, it's not quite that bad, but it's all about the weight. All right. Good thing they don't weigh us when we're adults anymore, because I wouldn't be doing so good. Okay. Look, let's go to 55. 55. You ready? Please pay attention to this one, because this is like signature classic question for percentile rank on the exam. Like this is the most popular, this type of question right here. And students, I get it that you get this wrong sometimes, but I feel like I want to make sure you understand what's happening here. Okay, so the players on a seniors volleyball team have the following heights. Is this arranged? It's not arranged. Quite often it is. It doesn't really matter for us, but we're not trying to find a mean median mode here. Watch this. Calculate the percentile rank of the players. Then explain what your answer represents. And I feel like I want to give a name to these heights. I want to give it a name. So what should we name the first player? Don't make me pick names. You're not going to like them. Chip. My high school teacher always used Biff and Chip for all the examples. Biff and Chip, Biff and Chip. Emily. Okay. So a height of 172. Where is it? Where is 172? It's right there. Okay. So we have to find B and N. Okay, we have to find B and N. What does B stand for again? Yeah, players that are shorter than what? Then 172. And N is the total number of players. So let's just count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, correct? 12 players. And B? How many are shorter? So you got to be careful here. Shorter than 172, correct? This one? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I counted 6. Did you count 6? Yeah. 6 players shorter. That's what that B stands for. 6 players that are shorter than 172, that are below the value you're interested in. So we do this, 6 divided by 12. I think you can all guess what this is going to be. 6 divided by 12 is half, right? Half times 100 is 50th percentile. You know what the good news is? If you just go 50th, you're fine. You don't have to have this part. Optional. This is what's wrong is to put percentage here. If you put a percentage symbol here, you're going to get it wrong. Is it easy to put a percentage there? Yeah, because you times it by 100. So that's the most common mistake the students, I'll just say, don't use percentage. Just a few exclamation marks, right? What does that mean? Meaning? Let's write a meaning for this. 50% of players are shorter than what? Emily. Or you could also just say 172 centimeters. It's up to you which one you want to use there. But that would be the meaning. Okay. Can you calculate real quick the percentile rank for a player that is 190? Let's go Nathan. Let's say that's Nathan. Nathan is 190 centimeters. Calculate the percentile rank for Nathan. Right now, do it yourself. Okay. So percentile rank, how many are shorter? I'm not going to look at my key. I'm actually going to do this with you. I know that there's still 12 players, correct? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Don't count. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 players are shorter than 172 times 100. I need my calculator. Times 100. So here's the kicker. You're going to write down 91.6 repeated, right? You cannot do that. You cannot leave it like that if you want full marks because you're ranking. If you're 91.6, wouldn't it make sense to round up because you're above 91, right? You're above 91. But you can either go 92nd or you can go 91st. Right? You choose. No decimals. No decimals. No percentages, no decimals. Okay, so it's either 92nd or 91st. You choose, but don't leave it as a decimal. And this goes like you always told us to round to 2 decimals no matter what, right? This is where you break that rule. Okay. Can we just say that 11 players are shorter than 172. That's pretty cramped, right? But to me, it makes sense. But if you're reviewing, you need to know, right? Oh, 11 are shorter. Okay. Um, could it be, just a question, could it be that Nathan joins, let's say he's also a basketball player. He goes to the NBA. Do you think his percentile rank, like his height, will still put him at the 91st, 92nd percentile? It could be that he's the shortest in that NBA team, correct? He could be like literally like in the first percentile. So just make sure it's always in relationship to who else is in that team, right? So and it could, right? So this is always important. Next, C is just could there be a player in the 100th percentile? Yes or no? So if you're in the 100th percentile, think about it this way. If you're in the 100th percentile, that means that 100% of the values in that set are below you, correct? But what about you? Aren't you part of the 100%? You are part of the 100%, so you cannot say that 100% of the players involved are below you, okay? So you cannot be in the 100th percentile since the player is part of the set, part of the data, okay? The highest percentile, what do you think it will be, the highest? You can use 99. Sorry, is 99. What do you think my percentile in terms of my height will be in this class? Probably 99. Okay. I think, let me pause this here. Okay, so page 56 to 58. And while you work, I will find the key. Please ask me for help. This is probably one that you might need some help with. Not that you have to, but I'll post the key.